Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome inside Garage Door Sports, your no-holds-barred weekly discussion on everything in the sporting world. For all your news on hockey, baseball, basketball, football, soccer, and more, you've come to the right place. And now it's time for your hosts, Nick McVicker, Kyle Vardy, and Irfan Manji. That's right, folks. We are back. Nick McVicker, joined through the Garage Door Sports Cup phone by my amazing co-host, Kyle Vardy. Kyle, how are you doing this morning, my man?
Doing good. Happy to talk some sports today.
Man, you got a new family member since the last time we talked, so that's always exciting. How's the puppy?
He's full of energy at one moment and wants to bite you, and then all of a sudden wants to take a nap for 6 hours. So it's a work in progress. So.
Yeah, sounds about right. I mean, he's a puppy, so that's to be expected, but always got to enjoy the time when they're this young, right? Because it doesn't last very long.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Crazy stuff going on in sports. Obviously, we're going to talk Euros. We're going to talk more MLB because after last week, more fun comments have come out. And a string of injuries. But, dude, let's start off. It's kickoff time. So let's start off with our kickoff segment, sponsored by Canada Kicking Academy. If you are looking for year-round professional development with elite competition, you need to train with the Canada Kicking Academy. The Ferraro brothers, Daniel and Gabe, are both University of Guelph alumni, and after illustrious university careers, they want to teach you everything they've learned over the years. If you want to take your special teams game to the next level, you need to train with the Canada Kicking Academy. Visit them at CanadaKickingAcademy.com or follow them on Instagram at Canada Kicking Academy. And Kyle, we're going to start in the NBA, and it's been a very entertaining or very odd playoffs, depending on how you look at it. What have been your thoughts sort of through most of the first two rounds? Because we do have 2 Game 7s, which we will talk about. But what have been your thoughts so far?
I mean, thoughts are it's actually entertaining basketball. That's the biggest thing. And there's no given winner, like other than the Suns sweeping the Nuggets, but there hasn't been a guaranteed winner or anything along those lines. It's been back and forth. It's been very entertaining to watch in general. Biggest disappointment to me in these playoffs has been the injuries to star players. That's, I think, has been the biggest disappointment. And it's been, constant. LeBron made a whole big statement about it. I'm not going to go into that, but it's one of those, it's just, I want to see the best players play. And that's the biggest thing, right? It's like, missing some of these best players, it's frustrating. So I've loved the playoffs so far. I just kind of wish that, every star player was playing all the time. So,
well, of course. I mean, that's the ideal, right? And it's been tough to see those players go down, like AD going down in the first round for the Lakers. That obviously played a factor, although, to be honest, Phoenix has looked great. Like, we cannot deny that fact. Jamal Murray not even being involved in the playoffs hurt the Nuggets in that second round for sure because they had no answer for Chris Paul.
yep.
Would he have played a factor had he been in? He might have changed it a little bit. Do they win? Probably not, in my opinion, but he plays a factor regardless. It is disappointing, and we're seeing Brooklyn kind of fight through it right now in their series against Milwaukee. Obviously, Harden and Kyrie have both been out for a good portion of these series, and Kyrie's not even going to play in Game 7 today.
Mm-hmm.
It is tough. It's been really, really tough, but there's been some great performances as well from, I mean, I've already mentioned Chris Paul. He's looked phenomenal in this playoff run. Now he's out as well, so we'll hope he'll be back for the next round. Kawhi and Paul George have been doing pretty good for the Clippers, although George didn't have a great Game 6. The rest of the team kind of stepped up, which is what you need in the playoffs. You can't do it by yourself, as we learned from LeBron this year. He could not pull it off.
Well, Terrence Mann action last night is what happened there.
Yeah, it was impressive though, and even in the Philly Atlanta game, like there was a lot going on. A lot of players kind of stepped up. Curry stepped up for sure in that game, which I
Well,
don't think anyone really expected him to be the main guy. So
Well,
it's
he stepped up the entire series. To be honest, he's averaging like over 22 points a game.
yeah,
So, and it's the biggest thing is the loss of Danny Green in that Philadelphia 76ers lineup has kind of given him the free reign to shoot the ball.
yeah.
And it's almost opened him up as a new player type of thing. You know, Korkmaz has taken the spot of Danny Green, but Seth Curry is the one who's taken the shots that Danny Green may have been taking before. So, combination of him and Embiid has been great. And the biggest thing for the Sixers is if they're going to win in this game 7, it's got to be Tobias Harris who's got to step up. And he did last night, and he looked good last night. And the Sixers held on to win. So, if everybody's playing, then the Sixers are hard to beat. But then again, same with Atlanta. John Collins and Bogdanovich were absolutely useless last night.
Yep.
And it was pretty much Trae Young's show by himself. So it'll be an interesting game 7 for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And we're looking at 2 game 7s in the West or in the East, sorry, that we weren't expecting before. So now we're going to get 2 game 7s there. Whereas the West is already set. Let's move over to the West. Let's focus on the West for a little bit here, Kyle. And the question that I have for you, being a little bit more of a basketball guy than me, are the Suns legit? Because they look legit this year. It's taken a while for them to get there. Let's be honest. Devin Booker's been there for a while. They got Ayton in, and it still didn't really click. Now they have CP3 there, and they've kind of created this, I want to say mini big 3, because no one really thinks of them as a big 3.
Mm-hmm.
But are they legit enough to win this whole thing this year? I know it's a weird year, but could they go all the way?
For sure. And I think the biggest thing is the Suns play a type of basketball that fits those 3. And I don't know if I don't know if they're really a big 3 because I'm still not sure about Ayton. Ayton's played well, but we'll see how he develops still.
Yeah.
I get what you were saying, but
they're a little big 3 because I don't think they're a big 3 either.
And I think, honestly, the biggest thing is CP3 added to that lineup has changed the Suns' dynamic and has given them that piece that, Rubio wasn't really giving them before. So,
by the way, give credit to Rubio. He's a great passer. He just wasn't what the Suns needed for that role.
Well, he was a great passer, but he's not CP3.
No, God, no. Absolutely not.
And the biggest thing for CP3 is he opens up Devin Booker to play more of his game and allow him to not get double teams or isolations or whatever like that he normally wouldn't have got before. So to me, I think they have a legitimate shot, and especially if Kawhi is out too, I think they have a good chance of just going straight through the Clippers and waiting to see who comes out of the East. No offense to the Clippers, but Clippers without Kawhi are not the same team.
They're a different team completely. You're right. They're completely.
You had Terrence Mann show up last night for 39 points, but he is not going for 39 points in any other game. It's just simple as that. It's to me, the Suns, I think, are the underdog favorites. I don't know how if Brooklyn gets healthy, I don't know how they compete with Brooklyn. It'll be a very interesting series in that aspect. I think they match up great against Atlanta or Philly. Milwaukee will be an interesting one as well. Whoever comes out of that Milwaukee-Brooklyn series will be an interesting matchup, but I do like their chances for sure.
Fair. And you look at the way the Suns have been playing, and you look at the stats so far in the playoffs, and Devin Booker is averaging 27.9 points per game. Chris Paul's second on the team with 15.7, and then Ayton's right there at 15.2. They're getting 10 plus rebounds a game from Ayton. They're getting 8 plus assists from Paul and 4 plus from Booker. It just looks like these 3 are controlling the team, and everyone else is just doing exactly what they kind of need to do, and it looks effortless. No offense to the Nuggets, they weren't even in the same stratosphere playing the Suns in that second round. And it was kind of I know injuries, lots have played into it. Jokic still played good, but he just couldn't get enough going for the whole team. It's tough to say that because I love Denver. I think they looked really good in the regular season. They just didn't look like the same team that they were in the regular season playing the Suns in that second round.
No, and the biggest thing was the loss of Jamal Murray was, and it ended up being too much.
Yeah.
Michael Porter Jr. didn't really step up compared to the way people wanted him to. And Jokic, even though he won the MVP, can't do it all himself.
No, he can't.
So it's one of those. It was a struggle for the Nuggets, and I think if Jamal Murray was there, I think we're talking about a whole different series with the Suns. And to be honest, we're talking about potentially the Nuggets. I don't know. It's just beating the Lakers in 4 or 5 rather than 6 games. I think Jamal Murray makes that much of an impact to this Nuggets team. So
wait, you mean Portland? Right?
Sorry. Yes, that's what I meant. Sorry. I was thinking Suns, Lakers is what I was thinking.
Yeah, no, so, I was confused there too, so don't worry.
Yeah, no. I'm thinking like the Nuggets. Like, yes, it was one of those. Does Lillard go off for the same thing he does? Probably not. But
no, not if Murray's there. Not a chance. He still goes off because he's Lillard, but he's not putting up 40 points. He's putting up closer to 30 points, and the games are not as close.
Of course. So, to me, he makes a big impact for sure. And, it was disappointing that they didn't go further than they did, but the Suns are a legit team, and we'll see how far they can go.
So, I guess now the question is who wins the West for you, Kyle? Is it the Suns or is it the Clippers?
I think it's the Suns to lose, to be honest. And especially if Kawhi is out with a potential ACL injury, they haven't really.
Yeah.
They said knee. They haven't really said what it is.
I hate that, by the way. Listen, just tell us. Like, what's the harm? He's out. Like, it's not going to change anything. Just tell us what the injury is.
Oh, exactly. It's like one of those okay, we know it's an knee injury. Like, we kind of just want the information. It's not going to change how we.
It's not like he's coming back.
It's not like we view the injury any different. It's like, okay, ACL injury. Okay, cool.
Now we just have a better general idea of when he'll come back.
Exactly. So, yeah, I think it's the Suns to lose. So.
Fair enough. Well, let's move from the West back home to our side to the East, and we got 2 Game 7s coming up.
Mm-hmm.
That means 4 teams are still in the running. Who the heck is the favorite right now in the East based on the way they've played? Because Brooklyn's hurt. There's no denying that. Even if they get through Milwaukee, are they going to be healthy enough to play a pretty good young Atlanta team or a physical Philly team?
Mm-hmm.
Milwaukee is hit and miss depending on who shows up every game, in my opinion. Like, Giannis has played really good in the playoffs, but if he's going up against Embiid, someone else is going to have to show up. And if he's going up against the Hawks team, who's going to play defense around the 3-point line? Because Giannis can't mark everybody. Like, they need people to step up. So I don't know about that. And whoever comes out of that Philly-Atlanta series is going to have to play one of the 2 best teams in the conference. Like, that's just how it is. Who is the favorite right now?
It's a good question, to be honest.
I set it up perfectly. I gave you all the answers.
Ask me after Game 7, and I'll give you a better option. I don't know.
It's true.
I think it's still Brooklyn, to be honest. Brooklyn, even though they are struggling with injuries, I do think that they're at home for Game 7. They get a chance to win it, and I think they pull it out. And to be honest, I think if you give Kyrie a little bit more time to potentially get a little healthier, you have the big 3 back. And, Harden's not 100% right now, but he's working his way back to 100%. That's the biggest thing. He's getting healthy, but he's still playing. That's the biggest key. We've seen Durant do it all. But the biggest thing for me is to get past Milwaukee, Brooklyn has to figure out who's guarding Giannis. And Blake Griffin is not the answer.
Blake Griffin can be for 5, maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Not the whole time. He can't mark him the whole time.
No, and to me, I look at a guy like Durant. Like you should be guarding Giannis. You have the size, you have the strength. Like you should be guarding Giannis. Not like kind of like a Kawhi thing. Kawhi is a much better defender. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
but like very very similar situation when Milwaukee was up on the Raptors, and Kawhi's like, all right, I got this guy, and then shut him down. Like it's one of those. Make him shoot jump shots. Don't let him get those layups or dunks. Make him shoot jump shots. He's terrible.
Can
He
we
can't
also
shoot.
can we also flip that script though and say that Giannis, who is supposedly the best defender on his own team, should be on Durant?
Should be, but Durant will put him into a spin cycle. That's the biggest thing.
I don't
Durant,
care if you're the best. If you claim to be the best defender on your team, you need to be guarding the best offensive player closest to your position size. Because I'm not going
100%.
to say a center needs to be marking a point guard. That's just stupid.
No, but it's simple as that. It's like you're like they should be a one-on-one matchup, and we should be seeing who the better player is right now. And it just doesn't seem to be happening that way, which is disappointing.
Giannis is scared to defend Durant by the looks of it.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't want to get exposed. It's probably the biggest thing.
Fair.
To be honest. But going back to the favorite in the East, I think it is Brooklyn. I think they do sneak past Milwaukee. I think it's a very close game, but I do think they sneak past Milwaukee. In the Atlanta Philly series, God, that's a toss up, honestly. It's one of those. It depends who shows up. Like I can't even guess right now because I don't know who's going to show up on any given night, which is sad to say, but I don't know who's going to show up on any given night. Trae Young has been outstanding, and I think he deserves a lot of respect and credit for what he's done.
Literally shot the lights out last night.
Oh, 100%. And it's one of those. He deserves a lot of credit for taking this Atlanta team, which the Atlanta team probably shouldn't be in the position they are. Yes, they have young pieces and stuff like that, but I don't think they're built for a championship yet. I think that they're missing a few pieces, but to me, it's one of those. If they show up, Bogdanovich starts hitting those threes like he has been all series. John Collins, chips in with 10 to 15 points, then they have an easy chance of beating the Sixers because the Sixers are literally down to 2.5 scores basically. So, I don't know, but whoever comes out of that series is going to be in tough against Milwaukee or Brooklyn. So I would say whoever wins the Milwaukee Brooklyn game is the favorite out of the East.
Fair enough. I think I agree with you. I think the Brooklyn Nets and the Milwaukee Bucks are the better teams right now. I've never trusted the Sixers. I think they have some very good pieces. Don't get me wrong. I think Joel Embiid is an absolute monster when he wants to play.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing for me is that they have really good pieces when they want to play.
Yep.
So granted, you could say that about Brooklyn though too. Like when Kyrie wants to play, Kyrie's one of the best players in the league. When Durant wants to play, he's one of the best players in the league. But when they decide that they don't really want to play, they are they're fine, but they're just I think those two teams are better though than the Philadelphia 76ers and the Atlanta Hawks. Like I think it's that simple. And we're going to see who comes out of these game sevens because we still don't even know who's playing in the Eastern Conference Final as opposed to the West. So it will be interesting. And who knows, maybe injuries do play a factor. Maybe the Nets get through, but Kyrie can't play the entire series. And then Harden misses most of the series too because he just can't get healthy. And it's all on Durant. How does that play a factor? We don't know yet. We're going to have to see. But let's get through game sevens tonight and tomorrow night. Mm-hmm. And maybe you and me can jump on early next week and have a little conversation about the East and try to figure out what's going to happen. But we'll see. I'm not guaranteeing that, folks.
Have a better idea.
Well, we'll have a much better idea because we'll see who's actually playing and who's, healthy. That'll do it for our kickoff segment, sponsored by Canada Kicking Academy. If you're looking for year-round professional development with elite competition, you need to train with the Canada Kicking Academy. Visit them at CanadaKickingAcademy.com or follow them on Instagram at Canada Kicking Academy. We're going to take a quick break, Kyle, and we will be right back after this.
Hey guys, it's producer Jake here from Betting House, the Garage Door Sports Network's ultimate degenerate gambling podcast. Catch our episodes weekly on Apple, Spotify, and Google as we bring you banter, laughter, and of course picks for all sorts of games throughout the week. Give us a follow on our socials at Betting House Pod, where you can catch all our bets each week, as well as some bonus content. Remember to always gamble responsibly. Let's get rich.
We are back, Kyle, and let's get right into it. It is Euros going on, obviously, and before we get into the Euro update, we have to talk about something that happened this week. And actually, it happened last Saturday after our show, so we definitely didn't get a chance to talk about it. Now we need to talk about it. The Christian Eriksen thing was one of the most terrifying things that I've seen happen. And I know you didn't necessarily see it live, but you kind of saw everything happening on social media and stuff. What was your initial thoughts of what was going on?
Well, when I get that, the banner come across my phone saying Christian Eriksen has had a heart attack on the field, it's one of those, sorry, what? And I think the initial thing was, what the hell happened? And I get what happened, but how did this happen? I guess the initial shock, I guess, is really what it was. But after watching everything and seeing how people reacted, my hats go off to the players and the staff, the medical staff, everybody basically who acted so quickly and basically potentially saved this guy's life. It's one of those, they did everything they were supposed to. They did it to a T, and my hats go off to them, and I'm glad he got released from hospital. I'm glad he's doing a lot better than he was. So it was a scary incident for sure.
Oh, 100%. And I was watching, and I'm like, I managed to turn it on just after he went down. And it was because I was talking with Irfan after the show. We got going, and then as soon as I turned it on, I'm talking, I saw him laying there with no one around him. That's how fast that's how close I had to him actually going down. And you look at it and you're just like, what happened? Because he made the run into the box. He was fine. And then the ball goes out for the throw. And he does the loop to go to the sidelines to get the ball thrown to him. The ball's thrown to him. And as it's thrown to him, he starts going over and it hits him in the leg and he's down.
Yep.
And we have to give full credit to the Danish captain, Simon. I'm going to mess up his name, but I believe it's Kjaer. Kjaer.
Yep.
For his response. This is a guy who's playing center back. He sprinted over and he checked to make sure that Eriksen wasn't choking on his own tongue, put him in the recovery position, and then realized he wasn't breathing, flipped him over, and started CPR himself before the medical team got there. That is awareness at a whole nother level for most soccer players. Most guys would not even think about doing that. He didn't think twice. And then afterwards, when they brought Eriksen's, I believe it's his wife, but don't get me wrong, significant other down to the field, just in case they're not married.
His partner, yes.
His partner. She was in, just shock, in tears. And they just had some Danish member of the staff kind of just standing with her because she couldn't go over, obviously, which I'm glad they didn't let her go over there because that would have been just even more terrifying for her. But Kjaer actually ran across the field to her as soon as he saw her and just was hugging her and be like, don't worry, we got this. He's fine. Everyone's going to take care of him, right? He did what a true leader does and tried to make sure everything was okay, which is incredible. And I need to make sure that everyone understands how important this guy was to saving Christian Eriksen there.
Yeah.
Because who knows how much that CPR that he started affected the result of him coming out of it, right? We don't know, but it's huge. I was in shock. I started texting everybody. I called Irfan right back. Me and him got off our Zoom call from the show after talking for 20, 30 minutes after you left. And I was off for 2 minutes and I called him. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Pardon my language, folks. But I was in shock.
Yeah.
It's terrifying to see that.
Well,
and give full credit to the medical staffs, but it's terrifying.
And honestly, I am extremely, and I said this to TJ when we were in the car, I'm extremely disappointed in the TV production.
Okay.
But the fact that they didn't say anything for 15 minutes, just had the camera, didn't say a word. That to me, go to commercial, do something, play highlights. Don't focus on the injury. I get you want to know if he's okay. I understand that. But at the same point, you can't show a guy, yes, the players had the T-shirts or towels or whatever it was.
Right.
You can't just have that with no commentary. There was nobody said a word.
So I was watching the TSN feed, obviously,
Yeah.
because we're up in Canada. I heard a lot of crap being said about the ESPN feed because they kept trying to show Erickson himself.
Yeah.
I didn't see that on the TSN feed. Now maybe I was calling people, I was talking to people, so I wasn't, I guess, fully paying attention. So maybe, and I'm not going to give them full credit because,
Yeah.
but I didn't see them try to show Erickson himself. They showed quickly the players lined up with the towel kind of up behind them, just so you could see that they were trying to protect their player. And then
Yeah.
it was more just facial reactions, like they were just showing people reacting to what was happening. Because the thing is, as a broadcast team, you're not supposed, when there's an injury like that, you're not supposed to cut to commercial because people need to know that A, he's getting off the field, or B, what's going on. Like, it's supposed to be that way. So they tell you not to cut to commercial. So I understand from a broadcast side, because I've been
Yeah.
in broadcast, right? I understand that they couldn't cut to commercial because it goes against what the precedent is that has been set prior. I think it's wrong. I agree with you. They should go to commercial. But I understand. So I can't blame them for not going to commercial. And I think the TSN commentators did a great job of saying, you know what? We talked for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes maybe. They were talking for the first 10, 15 minutes while the expressions were going on. And they were trying to get news. And you could tell that someone was down on the pitch trying to feed them information about what was going on. But then they said, listen, we can't say anything else. You can see it. We have nothing else that we can add to this. So we are going to breathe and try to find more information for you. And that's what they did. And I think that was a good way to do it. I understand what you're saying, though. If the broadcast had just stopped talking right then when it happened,
Yeah.
it would have been a different opinion in my head. I think the TSN guys, the commentators at least, did a good job of trying to talk people through the first initial thing and tell people, like, yes, they started CPR, but they've done a good job. It looks like his eyes have opened, sort of thing. Like, they were trying, but at some point you have to stop talking because there's nothing left for you to say.
To me, if that's the case, then, especially TSN, go back to the panel
Right.
inside.
I agree.
Like it's like that type of thing. And then once they start moving him off the field, immediately you can switch back. You have like that because you're recording the entire time. It's not as if as soon as you switch, the feed's immediately gone. You lose it.
Well, what they should have done, in
back.
my opinion, right? If
Yeah.
you need to get out of that, you cut to the panel, right?
100%.
But they have those screens on in the background, right? Let's be
Yeah.
honest. Put it on the screen while the panel's talking.
Sure, but
Right?
but at least have something that's distracting people.
Yeah.
Yes, they want to know updates, but the biggest thing is when because I turned it on and it was dead silence. All I could hear was the crowd, and it's just a guy across the field with players holding up towels. And it's one of those like, I don't want to see this. Like,
No.
I want to know if he's okay, of course. And if they start carrying off on a stretcher, immediately you can switch back, no problem. But until then, like, I don't want to see.
I agree. I agree, and I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying it from a broadcast thing. They're told not to, so that's why I can't blame them for not cutting away because they were told not to cut away.
Yeah, of course.
Right? So I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt on that one. Should that change? Absolutely. There's no way you should be on that kind of feed for that long with no change and no updates. If they were giving updates the whole time and we're getting positive or negative, fine. Like, whatever. Stay on it. But you can't be sitting there for that long with very little updates. I agree with you, Kyle. 100%. Yeah. So we're on the same page. Now, the next question obviously has to be asked, and this is one that UEFA doesn't want to have asked. Should that game have even been played afterwards?
No.
Like, I know they went to the players and everything, but hearing everything that's been coming out after, the players were apparently being told that they were going to forfeit the game if they didn't play.
Yeah, and
so they didn't go to the players.
No, like to me, it's one of those like, oh yeah, do you want to forfeit the game or do you want to play it now? It's like either way, they're going to lose the game. There was no chance. Like, yes, they missed a penalty to tie the game, but also it's probably like a lot of crap on their mind.
Yeah, they weren't thinking about that penalty. They didn't care about that penalty. Let's be honest.
to be honest, they didn't give a shit about that game. To be honest,
No,
it was one of
and
those.
honestly,
And,
neither did Finland by the looks of it.
yeah.
Like they didn't. No one really wanted to play that game.
First off, I'll give all credit to Finland. Finland has looked good this
They have
tournament.
absolutely,
All
but
credit.
they just
But
no one wanted to play that game after that
no,
incident.
and to me, it's one of those ones where it's you can fit in half a game the next day. Don't worry, I'm pretty sure you can figure it out, right?
Yeah,
Because it was literally at halftime. You literally have to play one.
There's 4 minutes left.
Yeah, right. It was one of those. Like I get the situation, but it's one of those you can't play that game, and playing it the next day, is that going to make a big difference? Not going to make a huge difference, to be honest. At least they would know he's stable. That's the biggest thing, right? But it's one of those. And I said like I said, it was postponed or delayed or whatever. I think they said it was postponed originally.
It was suspended technically.
So, but it was one of those, like, as soon as it came through on the score as postponed. So I'm like, all right, perfect. Like, okay, play that the next day. We're good. Let them at least kind of get their thoughts under them and a day to kind of process everything that's going on, which to me, like, as I said, would it have made a huge difference? Maybe, maybe not. But it's one of those, like, it's just like sportsmanship. It's one of those, okay, you just lost, like, arguably one of your better players as well.
Not arguably, he's their best player.
Okay. So, and plus,
no offense, he's their best player.
No, and it's not as if he blew out a knee. Like, if he blew out his knee, different story. Play on, whatever. He had a heart attack.
He had a cardiac arrest episode. Yeah. Like, come on.
And they had to resuscitate him on the field. Like,
I'm sorry. As soon as resuscitate came into the conversation, that game should have been called. I played a game when we were younger, and I've told you the story before, where a guy snapped both of his legs in a challenge against Kieran.
Mm-hmm.
We had to stop playing because kids were crying on the field. The game was suspended. We played it, I think, 2 weeks later because we physically couldn't play.
No.
This guy had to be resuscitated. And you're playing a game 5 minutes later. Like,
and it's one of those, like,
I know it wasn't 5 minutes. Let me correct that.
But it was 35 minutes or something like that. It wasn't even that long.
Less than an hour.
It wasn't even that long of a break, and it was all of a sudden it was like I saw and it was a 2-1 final for Finland. I'm like, wait,
1-0.
Was it? Oh, there was
1-0.
Oh, 1-0, whatever. And I saw that. I'm like, wait, I thought they said they postponed the game. What the hell? Like I didn't get an update saying, hey, they started the game again or anything like that.
Yeah, because it wasn't really well communicated on the apps. I will admit that.
No, it was one of those just like all of a sudden I look like 45 minutes later and all of a sudden it's like, oh, game's over. Like, what? Like I didn't realize they were playing. It was just, I think they handled it poorly. I'm glad that they on broadcasts after that they gave updates on him. I do like that aspect of it, but you can play that the next day. Just like figure it out.
Yeah. And even the other two teams in the group, Belgium and Russia, who weren't even directly involved in the game, said, listen, like, our players aren't even 100% sure they want to play this game after watching that. Like, that tells you a lot. These guys are not even in the same country, not even playing in the game, and they're not even sure they want to go back. How, like, give full credit to Denmark and the Finland players for finishing the game, because that would have been the hardest thing. And even more credit to Finland, because they knew how big this was. When the Denmark players came out from the stoppage, I guess, they gave them a guard of honor. Basically, not an official guard of honor, but they gave them a guard of honor, like clapping them onto the field, because they knew that was one of the hardest things that those players would ever have to do in a soccer match.
For sure.
Let's turn the tables and let's talk a little bit more happy about the Euros now, because that was a very tough thing to watch, but there's been some great soccer and there's been some great matches. Kyle, where do you want to start? Let's do our Euro update. Where would you like to start, my friend?
Well, we already kind of talked about Finland, so I'm not going to go too much more into them.
Okay.
They actually have a good chance at potentially, we'll see what they can do against Belgium, but
yeah, they might go through as a number 3 though. Still,
That's what I'm saying. But even then, like that Denmark Russia game could be huge potentially in that.
Yeah.
I want to talk. Let's talk about Group D. To be honest,
Group D, the group of what happened?
the group of disappointment from England's perspective, I think.
Group of disappointment from the top two teams that we thought were going to be the top two teams. Croatia looked awful.
They look terrible. And Irfan said it too. And all credit to Irfan. They look old. They look like they're trying to play the game that they played 4 to 8 years ago, but they don't have players to play 4 to 8 years ago.
Like, let's be honest though, Kyle. Like, you and me both looked at the roster and we said this Croatia team isn't what they used to be, but they should still be the second best team in this division.
100%.
Yeah, they aren't.
No,
they're not even close. I think Scotland's better than Croatia right now.
Well, there's a chance that potentially Scotland
could go through. If they beat Croatia in the next game, they're through.
Yeah, like there's potentially there could be 2 teams with 4 points in this group. Because
there could be 2 with 5 and 1 with 4.
Yeah, like Czech Republic, England. We'll see what happens with that. First off, England's got to score. Harry Kane looked god awful in the first 2 games.
I'll debate that. I actually think Harry Kane played a very good first game against Croatia. But he was, I would say that he was the target man for the Croatian defense, which was what they needed England. I'm not saying that the rest of the team looked great. I think Sterling was...
Sterling looked good and okay.
Sterling looked good in stretches, but then there were some stretches where I'm like you gotta get in more there, buddy. But still, regardless. Anyway.
And then you look at the game against Scotland, and all of a sudden Sterling looked great and Harry Kane looks...
Fair, yeah.
So, but hey, shout out to Billy Gilmore, Chelsea boy. He looked fantastic in that England
and
game.
Shout out to the United center defensive mid who was pushed to center back.
Yeah, exactly.
What?
So, I mean, this whole group, we said it was England's to lose, and right now,
they're losing it.
Barring something miraculous in that last game against the Czech Republic, they potentially are going to lose it. Like they will go on with 4 points. There's no question about that. But it's an interesting group so far. That's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And there's a couple groups that I think we have to quickly talk about. Group D is a good one. What about? I want to talk about the Italians who look like world beaters right now. I know they're not in the toughest of groups, but they scored 3 goals against the Swiss.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the last time I saw a team score 3 goals against the Swiss. Not saying the Swiss score goals, but they don't give up goals either.
Italy's firing on all cylinders right now, and and honestly, their midfield looks fantastic. Like it's amazing how it starts with Donnarumma in the back, and he hasn't really been tested a whole lot, to be honest.
He doesn't have to be right now.
He hasn't had to be. And it's amazing that the Italian attack is dangerous. I didn't think that they would be, but they are.
I knew Immobile would be good, but they don't have anyone else around him that really was like, oh, okay, yeah, you got to watch out for him. Immobile is a good striker. He's an underrated striker in my opinion. Now he's getting a little bit of credit because he's showing on the bigger stage, but he's a good striker. I still didn't think that they were going to put up 6 goals in their first 2 matches. Not a chance.
I mean, the other thing is Turkey has been a disappointment. That's the biggest thing. The opening game against Italy for Turkey, I don't even know. That team was not deserving of a Euro spot in general, let alone being in that game.
That is a tough first match. That's the first game back in the Euros at home. Italy's at home in front of fans. That's a tough first match for Turkey. Sure,
but the biggest thing, everybody was praising Turkey. Oh my God, they score goals. They came into this Euro. They win 3-2 games. They have stifling defense and all that kind of stuff. And now it's like, well, they've given up 5 goals in 2 games.
Yep.
And it's one of those okay, what are we talking about? This is not the same Turkey team that did all the qualifying. And the other thing is credit to Wales in that group. We were counting them out.
I called them. I said I liked Wales. I wanted them to finish second. I had them possibly finishing second, but I thought more realistically third. I'm very proud of how they've played their first 2 matches.
Gareth Bale looks rejuvenated, to be honest, and he's been, him along with Ramsey have been a dynamic duo. Like
Back to the
it's kind of,
Real days, right?
yeah, and it's kind of crazy that, that Italy Wales, like I was saying, the Switzerland Italy game was going to be good. That Italy Wales game is going to be good to see who goes on.
Best one in the division, which is
And,
sad.
and it's scary to say that, but like Wales definitely has a shot to win for sure. If Wales can open up that Italian defense, which really hasn't been tested so far, we'll see. We'll see what happens. So,
Group B as well. Belgium looks great after they go behind.
yep. Yep.
They're the comeback kids, but that group was always going to be Belgium's. Group C has been entertaining. I think a lot of storylines that we can talk about in Group C, including the Arnautovic thing, which was, wow, that's the guy who scored the goal in their first match and then started throwing racist comments at the North Macedonians. By the way, I know I'm giving a lot of credit to a lot of people. David Alaba deserves some credit. Did you see what he did on the reaction? He ran all the way up the field because I guess he heard what he was saying. Grabbed the guy by the jaw and basically said "shut up" to him, probably in a lot meaner words, but he said "shut up" to the guy, and the guy looked like he was in shock by that. Got a 1-game suspension, has already served it.
Yep.
But Netherlands have looked pretty good in this group, other than, defensively a little shaky, but offensively they look pretty good.
Well, and the other thing was it was another Netherlands team we were worried about injuries, but they're getting healthy now, and they're basically back to essentially their full lineup.
Right.
So the biggest thing is they're healthy, and they got through that first game without a full lineup. Right. That was the biggest key. The biggest key to us was that first game. How does Netherlands face the Ukraine, who we said was arguably their biggest competition in this group? How do they face them without the full lineup? And they screwed over Cohen in a bet, but I can talk about that after. But they snuck out that win, and it was huge for them. And to me, they're rounding into form now. They got a game against North Macedonia left, I think, because they already beat Ukraine and Austria.
Yep.
So they should go through with 9 points, I think. I don't see North Macedonia putting up a whole lot of...
Who would have predicted that at the beginning of the Euros, that they would go through on 9?
Yeah. It's crazy, but like honestly, they look... I don't know if they're really a threat to win it all, but they look like a threat for sure. So
if they can keep attacking like they have, they're a threat. Until someone can stop them, they have to still be considered a threat. 2 more groups quickly that we haven't talked about, so we might as well quickly touch on them. Group E, the group of S is shaping up to be the 3 teams with S at the top of the group, and Poland, who I thought was going to look a little bit better, they've looked anemic. And Lewandowski has, A, not been getting a whole lot of service from his team, and B, getting just absolutely shut down by every team that they've played. Like, they've played Slovakia, and I know they play Spain today. So they've only played 1 match. So I shouldn't say that. But he looked invisible in that game against Slovakia.
I mean, to be honest, Slovakia has looked good. Like that, it's simple as that.
And Sweden.
Like Slovakia in the first half of that Sweden game, arguably should have been up.
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%.
They dominated that first part, and then Sweden gets the penalty in the second half and goes up 1-0. And I think Slovakia probably deserved at least a draw on that one. I think the way they played well enough to get the draw. Obviously, it didn't happen, but they looked threatening. And it's one of those. I personally wrote off Slovakia before it even started. Yep. I said that they were in, and they're not going to do a whole lot. And I honestly thought Poland was going to do better. And as you said, Lewandowski hasn't had the ball. Like
he's looked invisible though. That's the problem. Yeah. Like I get that he hasn't been getting great service, but you still need to be involved in the play somehow. Like even if you're pulling players out, he's just not moving.
100%. And it's one of those, maybe it's age catching up to him or whatever. Maybe it's just I don't know what it is, quite what it is. Like maybe he just doesn't have that secondary player that he can really feed the ball to, right? That's because he's the focal point, and very much like Harry Kane with England type of thing. What Croatia did was they focused on him. And they said, "Hey, somebody else beat us," right? And for Poland, who's going to be that second guy? I don't know. So they've been definitely a disappointment, but Sweden has looked good. They've been solid defensively.
Yeah, I'm not going to say they look great, but they look good. They've only scored
well,
one goal, and they haven't given any up in 2 games.
Well, and that's the thing is they boarded their house up against Spain.
That's a great way of putting
it. And beat Slovakia on the penalty, and they've scored 1 goal so far. But they're through with 4 points.
They're not even through. They're not technically through yet.
But they will.
They will most likely be through, yes, but they're not technically through.
Even if they lose, they still should go through as a 3rd seed with 4 points.
They should. I'm not denying that fact. I'm just saying it's not confirmed yet.
No, it's technically not confirmed. You're right.
So,
but
it's one of those interesting. And then obviously Group F, which is playing right now, their second matches. Well, one of the second matches is playing as we speak, so we won't really get into the second match, but France and Portugal pick up wins in their first match. Hungary, Germany don't. Portugal handed Hungary a loss.
Yep.
Germany really didn't look that bad against France. France looked like they didn't jump into gear at all, though.
No, and to be honest, France is right now they're struggling through this Hungary game. They luckily tied it up, but they've looked threatening more in the first 25 minutes of this Hungary game than they basically did all throughout the Germany game.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
Did France win? Yes, sure, they won, but at the same point, Germany had majority of the possession, arguably had some very good chances as well, and potentially should have scored. But I don't know. This France team is interesting right now. They were my favorite to win it all, but until they truly show up and actually do something, it'll be, I don't know. We'll see when the knockout stage happens, and maybe they can round into form. But
yeah,
Portugal. Yes, they won 3-0, but
they don't scare me. Is that weird to say for a team that won their first game 3-0? Like, they just don't scare me.
But they scored 3 in the last 10 minutes. Like, up until then, they had nothing. Like, Hungary was playing great defense. Don't get me wrong. But even then, they only had they had 11 total shots. I'm pretty sure France had 11 shots in the first 20 minutes of this game.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those. To me, I think Germany is the second best team in this group, and they don't have a win yet. So
they've only played 1 game, so we'll see after today, right? And
but we'll see
with proven wrong.
Yeah, the Portugal-Germany, the matchup today, and I think that will be a great game. I think both teams will probably score in that game, and I think it ends up being a 2-1 game type of thing. But I don't know.
How about this crazy numbers that we could put together here? If this Hungary-France game stays a draw.
Yep.
Right? And Germany beats Portugal.
Yep.
The next matchup is France versus Portugal and Hungary versus Germany. There's a chance, mathematically, that Hungary finish second in the group. If they beat Germany and France beats Portugal in the next match day.
Yeah.
That's crazy to think. That is crazy.
It's
not out of the realm of possibility the way all 4 teams have been playing.
No, and it's also crazy that there's potentially that, Portugal gets knocked out with only 3 points.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because like France right now will have 4. They should go through pretty much no matter what with 4 points.
Yeah.
At least as the 3 seed, barring whatever happens. If Germany beats Portugal today, and then France-Portugal, if Portugal loses to France, they are not going through with 3 points as a 3rd seed.
No. Well, they might because they got 3 goals. So their goal differential might get them through, but that's very unlikely.
They might, but then at the same point, like if Croatia or Scotland, whoever wins out of that game, has 4 points, will end up in third, right? Ukraine, Austria, potentially one of them could get 4 points. Russia, Finland, I think there's a chance Finland, potentially if they end up drawing Belgium, yes, it would be way out there, but
Belgium doesn't need to win, so they might not play a tough game, right?
Yeah, 100%. So it's going to be one of those. We'll see, because this could be a very
and the Swiss Turkey, because Switzerland plays Turkey. If they beat Turkey, it's 4 points right there.
4 points, and it's with what, top four?
Yeah, top four, number threes go through.
And so right there, there's already 4 teams that could have potentially 4 points.
It is possible, 100%. It's possible.
Oh, absolutely, and it'll be very interesting. That's for sure. So. Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing comes down to who actually wins that Portugal-Germany game tonight.
Absolutely. I think we did a pretty good job wrapping that up. So we're going to take another quick break here. On the flip side, we'll talk a little bit about the MLB's, I guess the best way to describe it is their sticky situation with all the pitchers that they're dealing with. But that'll be after this break.
Hey everyone, this is Irfan Manji from Touchline Thoughts. We are an all-soccer podcast hosted by yours truly with guests every episode. We provide news, analysis, and opinions every episode as well. Touchline Thoughts is powered by the Garage Door Sports Network, and you can listen to us on your favorite podcatcher. Cheers.
All right, Kyle, one more block here. Let's get through this. And man, after last week, I didn't think we were going to talk about MLB foreign substances again for a while. Figured we'd give it a month or so and then re-look at it. No. We're back because Tyler Glasnow decided he needed to go after the MLB. Mm-hmm. And whether he's right or wrong, we will talk about that. But the comments are pretty damning, if you ask me. I 100% believe that contributed to me getting hurt, him talking about them cutting off the foreign substances. I want to read a comment that a little bit better here because that was not a great one. But he said in his little press conference on Tuesday, I woke up the next day and it was like I'm sore in places that I didn't even know I had muscles in. I felt completely different. I switched my fastball grip and my curveball grip. I've thrown it the same way for however many years I've played baseball. And I just threw 80-something innings, and then you just told me I can't use anything in the middle of the year, and I have to change everything I've been doing the entire season. Everything out the window. I had to start doing something completely new. I get that he's right technically, that it would change his grip, and it might cause him to strain muscles that he wasn't straining before to do the same sort of thing. But he's wrong in making these comments, right?
Oh, 100%. He's a moron.
The comments themselves necessarily aren't wrong, but for making the comments.
Well, to be honest, the comments themselves, he full on admitted been using.
He outed himself.
Sunscreen. Like he's been using. Yeah, I've been using sunscreen to get a better grip on my ball.
Well, sunscreen and rosin.
Yeah, but it's one of those. Okay, that fine, whatever. I understand that, but that's the whole reason why you've been better at pitching is because you're using this stuff as an advantage, and it's one of those. Yes, I get the MLB hasn't cracked down on this whole using other stuff really, unless it's oblivious like Michael Pineda, where it's literally a giant brown spot on his hat.
But then they went after the St. Louis rookie pitcher who wasn't even using anything. I think he had water or something on his hat. He wasn't even reaching for it.
But then didn't do it. Just confiscated it and said, "Hey, yeah, you can still pitch."
Yeah, because he wasn't using it.
No, I know, but it's just one of those I get pitchers want to use everything to their advantage. I understand that, and honestly, if you haven't watched the Trevor Bauer video explaining all this, go watch it. Definitely worth a view for sure. He kind of breaks down that rosin and sweat, and depending on how people sweat, you can literally stick the ball just by sticking like this with rosin and sweat.
But that's a problem.
Well, sure, but you're not going to take rosin away from a pitcher. It's simple as that. Because if you take rosin away from a pitcher,
okay, I get what you're saying.
Right, all of a sudden, pitchers are now throwing the ball over guys' heads because it slips out of the hand with sweat. Especially if you're playing in like Tampa or Houston or something like that, where it's 150 degrees.
Right. Okay.
And that kind of stuff. Like to me, rosin and sweat, I get it. But if you're using the spider tack or you're using, sunscreen, to me shouldn't be used. Like, you have rosin and you have sweat. Leave it at that. Pitchers have been using that for hundreds of years. That's fine. But now all of a
That's
sudden,
in the
there's other
rules.
stuff, 100%. But now the other stuff is now new stuff's coming out and trying out different things or whatever. And all of a sudden, pitchers are now throwing no hitters and they're getting, an extra 3 inches of drop on their on their breaking balls and getting more spin on their fastballs and so on and so forth. It's one of those, enough. Like, just learn how to throw.
Enough, period.
Just learn how to throw again. Like, sorry. Like, Glasnow, I get it. Sorry, you're injured. Shut up.
Yeah. No, and I think the thing that caught me off guard is that he's been saying, oh, well, like, it's been happening for years. Like, go back the last 50 years, all the best pitchers have been doing it. By the way, I don't know if you saw Pedro Martinez's comments about people rubbing his balls. One of the funniest things I think I've seen on live television. He was on the MLB Network. I'll have to send it to you after. But he basically said if he didn't like the way you rubbed up the baseballs before a game, he'd throw you out and get someone else to rub up the baseballs the right way. But he didn't say baseballs. He just basically said if he didn't like the way that you rubbed his balls, he would throw you out and get someone else to come rub his balls.
Well, that's a little.
I was like, you gotta specify there, Pedro.
Yeah,
everyone understood what he was saying because they were talking about it specifically, but it was just funny. But yeah, I get that it's been happening for 50 years, but it's still against the rules. Like, even if it's like when I'm trying to think of a great example of this, but it's pretty much like when Lance Armstrong was doping. Like, yes, other people were doping, but it still makes it against the rules. Sure. Barry Bonds used steroids. Yes, other players were using steroids, but it's still against the rules. It doesn't make it right. Like, if you get caught, which now all these pitchers are technically being caught because you can see, we talked about it last week with the Bauer units, right? Well, yeah, all their Bauer units are going down because they're not getting the spin rate on it because they're not supposed to have that kind of spin rate naturally. I get what you're saying about the rosin, that it needs to be allowed because it's in the rule book. You're allowed to have that. My question on sunscreen is for a pasty kid like myself who looks kind of tan right now on the screen. I don't know why. This isn't normal people. I don't know what's going on. But a pasty kid like me, like, I would have to put sunscreen on before the game. Like, you and me played together. How many times did I apply sunscreen during a game? 2?
Sure.
But it can't be on the palm.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I get, yes, you have to do sunscreen or whatever like that, but you're also not leaving a coat of white sunscreen on here that you can then go and grab it afterwards.
Yeah. Like, I used to wash off my hands because I didn't like having the stickiness on my hands as a shortstop.
Exactly, and it's one of those that, like, at a certain point, I get, you're gonna wear sunscreen, whatever, that's fine.
No, I get what you're saying though. Like, on the hat, you can't put sunscreen on the hat.
No, and I wipe my hand after to just get it off my hand. No, like.
If that's true, you can wipe anywhere on your hat. You can wipe on your jersey. I don't care. If you're wiping the same spot, then I know you're wrong. Like, don't give me that crap.
And it's like all of a sudden pitchers are now going to have 3.5 ERAs instead of these 2.25. And it's going to be like...
Except for Jacob deGrom, who clearly hasn't been using anything because nothing's changed.
He's just a beast.
He's just stupid good.
But like, it's just one of those... Enough. Like, I get it. Use rosin, use sweat. It works. It's worked for years. Just do it. Like, stop trying to bring in these other aspects. Sunscreen. Oh, I'm just wearing something. No, you're not. You're trying to cheat the system.
Unless you are pasty like me, you're not wearing sunscreen.
You're just trying to cheat the system.
That's the thing that I don't get. Like, Glasnow had no problem calling himself out and saying that he used it.
Yeah.
Is it wrong of me to say that the MLB should suspend him?
I mean, they should.
Because he outed himself for cheating.
It's the same thing we talked about before. The MLB, I don't think has the balls to do anything. Like they let Houston off with a slap on the wrist. Like,
let's also make the point that if a pitcher gets caught cheating now, they're going to be suspended more than any player that cheated that entire playoff run for the Astros.
Yep.
Huh?
the MLB dropped the ball. They had as I said, I think it was last week when I said it, was they had an opportunity to set a precedent.
Yeah.
And say, hey, we're not going to take this anymore. We don't care what you do. If you get caught cheating, you're going to get suspended. You're going to get fined. You're going to get everything. They didn't do that. They didn't. No players were suspended
Yet.
No, that whole. No, I'm saying for the Astros.
Oh, you mean? Oh, sorry. Yep. Okay.
The Astros.
Sorry.
So no players were suspended. The manager and I guess he was an ex-player at that point in Beltron.
Bench coach.
Yeah. So it was just one of those.
We're only suspended for a year, by the way.
Yeah, they had an opportunity. They dropped the ball, and now this stuff comes out because everybody else knows. Hey, I can get away with it. I'll miss 5 to 10 games, whatever. I'll come back and keep using it. They're not going to do anything.
Yeah. You're missing, but as a pitcher, you're missing 2 starts.
Sure.
And at one point, it wasn't even 10 games. Yeah. The official thing was 10 days, which is 1 start for a pitcher because there's no way you're playing 10 straight days.
No, and the other thing is it's one of those. The new rule is that you can't replace the pitcher on the roster, which I think is good because it handicaps the teams and basically says the teams don't do it.
Right.
But at the same point, it's one of those. Think they really care? No. If their pitcher is giving up 1 earned run a game, they'll take a chance of getting caught, I guess.
Yeah. It's just frustrating. Like the league needs to do something, and I get that. And I think that we can jump to the next topic here, but like I completely understand that it is an injury concern because since we talked last Saturday, Kyle, I decided to go into the MLB's IL list. Since we talked last Saturday, 54 pitchers have gone to the IL with arm or shoulder injuries. 54. That's almost 8 a day. So obviously it is affecting it, but I kind of think it's the pitcher's fault for using the sticky stuff in the first place to become their norm.
Yep.
And now they have to go cold turkey and it's causing problems because they're trying to overgrip. Well, listen, like if you didn't use the sticky stuff in the first place, it wouldn't be in this problem where you have to find a new norm. Like 100%. I don't know. Maybe I'm a goody two-shoes. We both know this, right? It's always been that way. I didn't like taking penalties in hockey. So I would never have cheated. I didn't even like putting pine tar on my bat. I think you did it one time and I lost my shit because it gripped funny after. Why would you do something that you know is wrong that might come back to bite you later in your career? And now it's coming back to bite you and they're blaming the league? Like, what? How does that make sense? And is this going to be a trend for pitchers are just going to keep getting injured because the MLB is cracking down?
I mean, the biggest thing, and I kind of agree with it. The MLB has had this rule in place with the MLBPA that they can crack down on all this stuff for years, and it's part of the collective bargaining agreement, but they've never enforced it in basically the history of the MLB.
And I get that, but it's still in the rule book. And I know I'm a goody two. I get that. I don't like going against the rules, but it's in the rule book.
No, 100%. And I think the biggest thing is the MLB. My biggest thing is you can't change it mid-season. I get it as a
technically they're not though.
What?
This isn't a new rule.
No, but
the suspensions are.
They're enforcing it mid-season, and all of a sudden now.
But it should have been enforced, I guess. Like it's the same rule though, so it's not like if they were adding a new rule in, then yeah, I get what you're saying. Like you can't do that mid-season. That goes against everything in the collective bargaining agreement. But it's not a new rule. They're just enforcing it differently because they're realizing that so many people are breaking the rule and they need to enforce it differently.
Yeah, and honestly, I think this comes down to nothing but the MLB is upset with how bad hitters are hitting and how little home runs are happening comparatively, right? Because the pitchers are dominating this year, and it's been the year of the pitcher, and there's no question about that. Right? The biggest thing is, what is it, 7 no-hitters now or something like that?
6 or 7, yeah.
Wade Miley was working on another one through 7 innings until.
And I mean, technically, you had another one for Bumgarner, who had the 7 in the 7-inning game.
Yeah.
Right, and if you want to count that.
Sure, and it's one of those. It's just adding up to it's the year of the pitcher, and it's that kind of stuff. And yes, because they're using this added bonus. But if the MLB was so worried about pitchers being that much better, why take away the juice balls? That's my biggest thing. Is the MLB is like backtracking now. They're like, oh my God, no, we wanted more even. We didn't want pitching to be dominated. Now we wanted hitting and pitching to be on the same level and like even it out, because it was a hitters league the last 3, 4, 5 years, whatever, because guys were hitting 30, 40 bombs a year on the regular. Guys that were hitting like 10 before were now hitting 15 to 20. And it's one of those, the MLB is like, all right, we'll get rid of the juice balls then. But now the pitchers are like, well, why don't we use some other stuff in our that we can kind of get away with, because we know the MLB is not going to do anything about it.
Right.
They've had this rule in place and never enforced it for how many years, right?
50
It's not as if this is a new thing. People have been using.
I love that pitchers have been coming out from like the 60s and 70s saying, oh yeah, I used to do this. Who was the famous spitballer? He just came out, and I
can't. I know Goose Gossage used to use the spitball. I know that.
Yeah, no, there was another guy. He just came out this week and said, "Oh yeah, I was terrified of getting caught, but I was still gonna do it."
Oh, the biggest thing is until you get caught, nobody cares. Like, nobody's gonna say anything. So, I mean, I get it, but don't get it at the same time. And pitchers
I think it was Gaylord Perry.
Oh, okay. Pitchers are just going to have to change. And like, if it's a matter of that they go to the IL so they can work on their pitching, like mechanics again, which they might have to, so be it. But it's one of those.
But you know what? Here's my thing. Okay. They're all concerned about keeping the same velocity and all that.
Yeah.
Great. Here's what you do. If you need to work on it, drop your velocity. Don't throw as hard. And see if hitters can figure out how to hit you after that, because they are scouting you. They are scouting the 96 mile per hour fastball with the 88 mile per hour slider and the 80 mile per hour curve. Drop everything 5 miles per hour. See if they can figure out how to hit it, because they're scouting one thing, and then you come up there throwing 5 miles per hour slower. They'll be like, whoa.
Oh, sure.
That's the way batters are nowadays.
Oh, 100%. It's one of those, like, pitchers got to figure out something different. That's the biggest thing. Because if they get caught with this and they're suspended, it's just going to be constant either injuries or suspensions. I don't think there's any way out of this for the MLB and for pitchers without one of the two. Yeah. It's either they continue it and it gets suspended, or they stop it and risk injury based on how they're throwing it different. So
yeah, I still think it's ridiculous that Glasnow made those comments. Are they all wrong? No. Like, I'm not saying his comments themselves were wrong, but outing yourself like that, it's not a good look.
No, he's a moron for outing himself. That's the biggest.
Not a good look. All right, Kyle, it's that time. Final thoughts of the week. Start us off, my friend.
Final thoughts. Honestly, this is hard to say. Montreal Canadiens are playing well, and look right now like a legitimate threat for a Stanley Cup.
I've known Kyle forever, folks. This is like eating him inside to say this right now. His facial expression does not do it justice.
If Fleury keeps, sorry for lack of words, fucking up, the Canadiens are going to move on. It's simple as that. And
I don't think it's Fleury. I think if Price keeps playing the way Price has been playing.
Well, no, but the only reason Montreal didn't lose that game last night is because Fleury.
No, I know, I understand that, but Vegas played pretty much the perfect game in that game, and I'll debate, right? Like they had 30 shots through 2 periods, and Montreal had 8.
Yeah.
So I think they played a great game, and they deserve to win that game. But Montreal was kept in that game because of Price. And everyone, by the way, can I ask you this question? This is a serious question because I was really confused on Twitter. Everyone was blaming Price and saying that second goal from Pietrangelo was a bad goal. I thought that was a great shot.
Oh, 100%.
Like, how is that his fault? It was
First
put
off,
right above the pad on the blocker side. What is he supposed to do?
First off, anybody who's complaining about Price letting in a goal, go away.
Go shake your head.
Have you seen he's kept them in every series, no matter what. He's stolen them games where they did not deserve to win the game.
Yeah.
If he lets in a goal like that, shut up. He's allowed to do that. He's human.
It was a good goal, too.
He's human.
Yeah.
If you get beat under the arm, that's just a good shot. Sorry. Like, did you see like the 14 breakaways he stopped before that? That could have been literally a 7-1 game right at that point.
That's my point, though. I'm like, how is that a bad goal? Like, it was a great shot just above the pad on the blocker side. What are you supposed to do?
Without Price, Montreal doesn't make it out of the first round.
Hold on. They might, just because Toronto did not want to win that series.
No. Price literally stood on his head.
I know, but Toronto didn't look like they wanted to win that series either, so they might make it out of the first round.
Yeah, even then, like, they don't make it past Winnipeg. They don't make it past Winnipeg. That's the biggest thing. It's like, without Price, Montreal's nothing. And right now, Price is playing Vezina. Give him every trophy you can right now, basically.
He's playoff Price, and this is what they needed to do for them to go on a long playoff run.
And you know, the young guys are stepping up, and
Cole Coffey
I hate to
looks
say
so
it, but
good.
Montreal looks good. So
if Price keeps playing like this, Montreal is now my favorite to win the cup.
Yeah.
And that's sickening to say.
Yeah. I will never hear the end of it with everybody who's a Montreal fan. And I don't want to deal with that. So Vegas, please step your game up and figure shit out.
Here's the one thing, though. I kind of want them to win just so Justin has to hear it from his dad.
Yeah,
but I want that for like a day, and then I'm done with it. We're good.
Yeah, but you'll hear it for years until the Leafs do anything. That's the biggest thing, and I don't want to hear that. Like, I don't want to deal with that.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I want to hear it for like a day from Justin's dad, just to really dig it into him. But after that, I'm good. I don't want to hear it anymore.
Well, and I was saying this to my dad. I said, to me, Vegas is the only team. Vegas, maybe Tampa. If they win, I don't care. It doesn't affect me. If the Islanders win, God, I don't want to deal with Islanders fans. You know,
do we know any?
What? No, as a Leafs fan, it's one of those. They already rag us that we go further in the playoffs without Tavares than we did with him.
Oh, okay,
and,
gotcha.
And then Montreal winning would just be like, just give me COVID, and at that point, we'll go from there. But
don't say that.
It's just,
dude, you've had enough medical things. Let's not add that in.
I mean, at this point, it's probably easier to deal with than Montreal winning the cup. So, we'll.
With that, I'm going to go goaltending on another level. And man, this was the week of goalie gaffes. We already talked about Fleury. Can we talk about the Haiti goalie?
Yeah.
Holy moly, that was awful. Now, are you ready for this, Kyle?
Yep.
I got a question for you. It's a trivia question.
Yeah.
What does Marc-Andre Fleury and the goalie from Haiti have in common, other than the gaff? Huh?
Both Canadian?
Yeah, a little bit more than that.
Don't know.
They're both born in Quebec.
Oh, nice.
So it's one of those weird things, but hey, huge shout out to Canadian soccer. They are through to the Hex +2, the Octagon, whatever you want to call it. Now.
The Elite Eight.
I know, but it was the Hex for the longest time. That was the final stage of qualifying. But it's 8 teams now, so it's the Hex +2.
The CONCACAF 8.
They're calling me the Octo, I think, but I like the Hex +2. It just keep it simple. But yeah, like I fully loving the fact that they are winning games and going through, because this is awesome. And I am excited to see how far this team can go, honestly. Like,
I mean, looking at those 8 teams, they have a real shot at probably 3 or 4 positions. Is what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
So the top 3
I
get
mean,
automatic bids to the World Cup.
Yep.
And the 4th place team has to play a intercontinental playoff against, I think it's the Oceania 2nd place team. It's like Australia, New Zealand.
New Zealand probably.
I think I could be wrong on that. Don't quote me on that.
I'm assuming Australia would end up being number 1 in that area, but we'll see.
You'd think, but stranger things have happened.
Even then, like Canada played well against U.S. Canada's.
Well, here's the big thing for me is that the first game against Mexico, which was in Mexico originally, will now be with no fans.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge. That's a game changer because that Mexican fan base is big for them,
especially in Mexico. Too.
Yeah, that's what I mean, right? Like, and now that has to be played behind closed doors.
Now
that gives Canada a real
neutral
boost.
site. It's a neutral site, basically.
Yeah, that gives Canada a real boost, especially because we've been playing a lot more games. Like Mexico has not played as many games as we have recently.
Yep.
So this team is coming together. It's going to be interesting. I know they don't play till September, but still.
But it's one of those. I mean, they have a real shot, and this is their first real shot since, what did they say, 84 or something like that?
80 something. When was it?
Something like that. But,
Canada World Cup. That was a bad idea. Oh, 86.
86, okay.
86.
I knew it was 80 something. But
been a World Cup.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming, but this is their best team in my lifetime, at least. But
yeah, well, the last time we even were like competitive was like 2000 when we won the Gold Cup back then.
Yeah,
and even then, that team was not supposed to win the Gold Cup.
No.
So
no, not at all.
It's a different team. It's a different era, and it's a good one. So we are looking forward to it. That'll do it for us here at Garage Door Sports. If you are looking to follow us, make sure you check us out on Twitter at Garage Door Sport and on Instagram at Garage Door Sports. If you're looking for me, it's at Nick McVicker. If you're looking for Kyle, it's at Kyle Vardy. Don't forget about Irfan. He couldn't make it today because he's got, actual school to do. We do not.
Nope.
So he needed the weekend to trying to get everything sorted out, but he will be back next week. If you want to follow him on Twitter during the Euros, it's very entertaining. At Irfan Manji. Don't forget Touchline Thoughts as well. Touchline TH on Twitter and Instagram because they've been doing some great content for the Euros. Don't forget to follow all the other shows at the Betting House Pod, at 20 Minutes on Ice, and our football and basketball shows will be coming back soon. Hopefully, we're trying to get those back up and running. It's kind of hard when there's no football, but we're going to try. CFL's coming, so we're working on it.
We'll figure something out.
Yeah. Make sure you follow us. We will be back next week to talk more sports. Until then, folks, thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.